Nice to meet you all. I'm Arai Shoji from Class 2B. Looks like we've finally reached the last story, although the 7th person didn't show up at all. And so it looks like I'm the last. You're Kurata-san, right? How about it? Is it going to be a hassle for you if you don't hear 7 scary stories? It is. I thought so. Of course it will be. I mean, the title of your article is The 7 School Mysteries. 7 scary stories are what make up those 7 mysteries, huh? But, you know, frankly, you should give up now. You might not know it, but in reality, if you listen to 7 scary stories about this school, they say something bad will happen. But the 7th person still hasn't shown up, so relax, and I'll tell you the 6th story. Alright, let's begin. This isn't a story I planned to tell if all 7 people were here. If I had been picked to tell my story earlier, I probably wouldn't have told it either. It's that dangerous. I don't know where it might be watching from, you know? And who is it? The doll. Strange, right? Kurata-san, do you think I'm crazy? Well, I don't care if you do. Because if you make fun of the doll, you'll be the one who's cursed. But anyway, it should be okay. It doesn't look like all 7 of us are going to be here, so I should be fine telling the story. So, let's begin. The story about the doll that lives in this school. Everyone, do you like dolls? There are lots of different types. Japanese dolls and French dolls. Dolls that express the characteristics of their countries. Straw dolls and other cursed dolls that are used in black magic. Even the stuffed toys that everyone loves are dolls. Ventriloquist dolls and marionettes. Dolls that require specialized techniques. They're all covered under the single word, doll, but they all have their own shapes and uses. But there's one thing they all have in common. No matter what type of doll, there is just one thing they all share. That is, they all have a soul. Rather than saying they have a soul, they get a soul, might be a better way of putting it. The kanji used to write the word doll uses the characters for person and shape, right? When dolls start to feel the love of their creators and owners, that's when they start to possess a soul. Kurata-san, what do you think of dolls? They're cute. I think the only time we can innocently think of dolls as cute is when we're kids. I honestly don't think dolls are cute at all. Especially antique dolls. I don't want to think about why that doll has passed through someone's hands to get here. Souls dwell within them. What if their emotions depend on the environment around them? Just thinking about it gives me chills. Dolls don't come with a personal history. You shouldn't buy them carelessly, especially antique ones. Okay, let's get back to the story about the doll that resides in this school. To tell you the truth, I don't know how long that doll has been here. But there's no denying that it is here. Then, before you know it, it appears. Kurata-san, do you have any idea what I'm trying to say? What on earth is that doll? Don't you think it's strange? That's right. It's normal to think that way. Kurata-san, you'll probably be confused about this story at first as well. But it's okay. Because when I finish, I think you'll believe the story about the doll that lives in this school too. There are several stories surrounding this doll. That's how famous it is. What type of doll is it? Yeah. If I had to say, it's very similar to a human. You could say it looks just like a person. It's about the same size as well. Perhaps just somewhat smaller. Yeah, you could think of it as about the same size as a large child. Its skin is pure white, its hair black, and its large eyes stand out. It's beautiful, but if you look at it from a different point of view, it looks so much like a human that you could say it's kinda creepy. It was made so it could move all its joints. It's actually exquisitely made. But only its mouth doesn't open. Perhaps because it was made to resemble humans so much. If its mouth moved, it would look too much like a ventriloquist's doll. Its face, yeah, it looks like a girl. However, to some people, it appears as a beautiful young boy, or perhaps neither male nor female, but a beautiful androgynous child might be the most apt way to put it. Of course, nobody knows who made the doll either. I also have no clue about it. I haven't actually seen it myself. All I've done is put together the various stories I've heard from other people. So there might be some small discrepancies. To some people, the doll's eyes were terrifyingly large. To others, its ears pointed. To others, its mouth wide open. Why do the details of its face always differ? Well, that can't be helped. There's not a single person left alive that's seen the doll. For some reason, they all die. Of those who have seen the doll, not a single one is left. But that doll does exist, without a doubt, right here in this school. Do you know why? Kurata-san, you're still a first grade student, yeah? So you probably don't know. But those of us in the second grade and above do. And we are constantly consumed by fear, wondering if we'll be next. At this school, one person is offered to a sacrifice to that doll every year. Perhaps not offered, but taken would be a better way to put it. In reality, we don't know if it's even just one person. At the very least, it's one person, but in reality, it could be several people who are taken as a sacrifice. Kurata-san, you've listened to several scary stories by now, right? You'll probably hear more stories like this after as well. But there are rumors that at least a few of the people who appear in this story were killed. Regardless of how they died, one single doll lies in the shadows of them all. They say that those who have been chosen as the doll's sacrifice come to fear its appearance. That's right. The season of the doll's sacrifice is right around now. I haven't heard about anyone becoming the sacrifice this year, so we'll probably find out who this year's sacrifice is very soon. So the story I'm going to tell you about is the person who became last year's sacrifice. Last year's sacrifice was someone from my class. His name was Kanai Shoichi. He always seemed to be afraid of something and was awfully timid. That's the type of guy he was. If you called out to him from behind, he'd always jump. Then, if something made a noise, he'd get nervous and look around restlessly until someone discovered what it was. At first, those of us who were with him were surprised as well, but as we came to understand that was just his personality, we got used to it. So, on the other hand, we actually had no idea that he was terrified of the doll. I think the first time I remember him speaking to me about the doll was when we were passing by the incinerator. 4 or 5 of us were walking past there after school. It was when we passed by it. Suddenly, Kanai-kun stopped. Then he stared at it with his usual nervous eyes. I was the first one to notice. We were used to his habits by that point, so I didn't think too much of it. What's wrong? Is something there again? I called out to him, careful not to frighten him. Then his voice trembled. The doll's there. Inside the incinerator. The doll's calling for me. Having said that, he approached the incinerator, swaying from side to side. I was surprised. Right at that time, the incinerator was burning rubbish, and bright red flames rose into the air from it. What's wrong, Kanai-kun? That's dangerous. All of us stopped him. But it's calling me. It's calling me, so I have to go to it. If we hadn't been there, I have no doubt he would have thrown himself into the incinerator. Perhaps we'd gotten through to him, but a moment later, he suddenly recovered and then started walking away like nothing had happened. After that, he started looking around for the doll at every opportunity. What do you think, Kurata-san? Do you think what Kanai-kun saw was just an illusion? Or do you think the doll really exists? I think the doll is real. Is that so? I think that's a good decision. I can't say that the doll isn't lurking around somewhere nearby while we're chatting like this, after all. No, perhaps one of us here right now has already seen the doll. As an aside, People often do see things that aren't really there. Like, different types of ghosts are, in reality, just hallucinations. Of course, real ghosts do exist, but most of the time they're just hallucinations. When you're tired or mentally unstable, supposedly you see such types of things. At times like that, there are particularly a lot of cases where people see a doll. In reality, I've seen one too. No, not the doll we're talking about here. It happened before I came here. A Japanese doll fell over in a room that no one should have been in. A Chigo doll with long hair. I blinked, and the next moment, it was gone. Well, that's not important anyway. So back to Kanai-kun's story. Kanai-kun saw the doll for a second time 2 days later. We were playing softball during PE class when suddenly Kanai-kun went nuts. He ran around the field, swinging the bat around. "Stay away! Don't come any closer!" Everyone froze. I mean, those of us watching were the ones in danger. It was like he could see something that didn't exist, and he was swinging the bat around. Then I overheard some people talking. That's when I learnt about the stories of the doll as well. The PE teacher hesitated to stop him for a moment. I still remember the sad look on his face. But don't you find it strange? Even though there's a cursed doll in our school, why doesn't anybody quit? Even if we suppose there's no choice for the students who enter unknowingly, why don't the teachers and the students who have seen the doll leave? Don't you think it's strange? I think it's strange. Right? I think so too. So then I asked those who knew about the doll lots of questions. I came to understand one thing. First, it doesn't seem to affect teachers. So it has nothing to do with them. Then, it seems to choose its sacrifice before they even start school here. Of course, that's just a rumor. But apparently, the principal knows all about it. For whatever reason, there is at least one person who fails mixed in amongst all those who did pass the test to come here. And that person is the one who is chosen as the doll's sacrifice. What that means is that each year there are students here who shouldn't have passed, mixed in with everyone else. The principal knows who they are. He knows, and he lets them in. The students who are to become sacrifices. Isn't that a terrifying story? But apparently, as a condition of receiving a student as a sacrifice, our school wins all school tournaments, and numerous students go on to first grade universities as well. Of course, at the end of the day, all of this is just rumors though. And so, it's possible that one of us here is that person. Kurata-san, it could be you. And that's the end of my story. It seems that the 7th person never arrived and we safely finished our meeting, hey? Wait, Tell me more about Kanai-kun's story. What's wrong? Have you developed an interest in the doll's story? Or perhaps your interest is in Kanai-kun? Sure. Why not? I wanted to end the story quickly, though. If you really want to hear it that much, then I'll keep going with the tragic tale of Kanai-kun. After his incident on the school grounds, people whispered that Kanai-kun was this year's sacrifice. After that, more and more people looked upon him with pity. Then his eccentricities started to stand out more and more. During tests, just when it seemed like he was about to start tearing up his answer sheet, he'd cry out, holding his head in his hands. "Leave me alone! I don't want to go! So stop asking me!" Then he'd fall forward and pass out on his desk. Even though the teachers saw him, they did their best to keep things calm. It seems Kanai-kun doesn't feel so well, huh? Someone take him to the nurse's office. With a single phrase, it was swept under the rug. Even though they knew it was all that doll's handiwork. How cruel those teachers are, huh? The principal probably bribed them to keep their mouths shut. Everyone knew, just by looking at him, that Kanai-kun was rapidly losing weight. He wasn't that slim to begin with, but not even a week after he saw the doll at the incinerator, he was little more than a skeleton. Then, day by day, those around Kanai-kun stopped going near him. But for good reason. Just standing nearby would see him trying to choke you or acting out violently. It was like those who were by Kanai-kun's side were going to be killed before he could even become the doll's sacrifice. That's how dangerous he was. Teachers started to skip school as well. That's not to say they were worried about him, but rather that they didn't want to get involved. But Kanai-kun didn't try to take any time off. He kept coming to school like it was his duty to do so, no matter what happened. Yet being in class seemed painful for him. Just sitting in his chair seemed to bother him, and he'd sigh continually. The teachers didn't say anything to him. A week or so must have passed when it happened. All of our classes had finished, and I was just about to head home. Kanai-kun was standing next to my seat. He looked like he wanted to say something, and he looked to be in pain. To be honest, it would be a lie to say I wasn't scared. I did my best to act normal, but my attitude betrayed me. It appeared that my eyes naturally refused to meet him. "You're scared of me, right? Nobody will listen to what I have to say. Please, won't you listen to what I have to say?" That voice must have been just what a ghost sounded like, I thought. Even though he was so quiet that I wasn't sure whether I heard him or not, his voice echoed inside my head. Then, when he asked me, it was like a powerful force working behind the scenes made it impossible to refuse. Lured in, I nodded. The pity everyone looked at Kanai-kun with soon spread to me as well. let's talk on the way home. If possible, I wanted to talk in the classroom. There were people still there after all. If something happened, I thought they'd be able to help me. But I did as he said. For some reason, it was like all I could do was nod. Kurata-san, do you think I'm pitiful? I don't think so. Thanks. If you had been in my shoes, I think you would have done the same thing. I quickly shoved all my stuff in my bag while Kanai-kun kept an eye on me. The hallway was quiet. Usually students were running around the halls on their way home at that time, but for some reason, there wasn't another person in sight. It was silent. I walked side by side with Kanai-kun down the empty hall. I'm going to die today, he said suddenly. I wondered what he was thinking as he spat that out. I didn't know how to answer him. Without saying anything, Kanai-kun started speaking by himself. These last 2 or 3 days, I've constantly been seeing the doll. I already know. Each year at this school, someone must be offered as a sacrifice to the doll, right? Then he looked at me. I trembled. I couldn't look him in the eye. For some reason, I felt guilty. I couldn't help but feel like he was blaming me. I couldn't help but feel like he held a grudge against me because I knew about the doll and didn't tell him. It wasn't my responsibility. I didn't do anything wrong. Plus, I learnt about the doll after he realized he was the sacrifice. Even so, my knees felt weak, and even though I was walking, it was like my legs weren't my own. My breath constricted, and I thought I was going to die. I stayed silent and held my tongue, focusing all my energy into moving my feet forward in a businesslike manner. The doll is calling to me. I don't know why it's calling me. Why did it pick me? But the reality is, it's calling me. And soon, I'm going to die. The doll won't leave me alone. Look, it's next to you right now. You're walking between the two of us right now. Having said that, he thrust his face in front of my averted gaze. He was smiling. It was probably what a skull would look like if it smiled. It was an awfully sad smile. I locked eyes with him. See? The doll has placed a hand on your shoulder right now. What's wrong? You can't see it? Looks like the doll has taken a liking to you. I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't listen to me. It was like I was hypnotized, and my legs just kept moving forward. My fear levels went through the roof. If I opened my mouth, perhaps my heart would have jumped out of it. Kanai-kun laughed. He. When he laughed, his breath washed over my face. If I said that his breath was cold, The doll won't leave my side. It even follows me home. When I sleep, it stands by my bedside the whole time, staring at me. Is it real? Or is it just a dream? I can't deal with it anymore. When I take a bath, the doll's face is there, half sticking out of the water. It doesn't leave my side for even a second. When I feel like death would be the better option, it's there, grinning at me. And its voice echoes inside my head. Tomorrow, you're going to die. That was yesterday. That's why I'm going to die today. That's why I came to you. He smiled again. I couldn't look away anymore. His face got so close that our skin was almost touching. How about it? Do you want to hear what he had to say? I want to hear. I see. You want to hear, huh? It's also nice to be full of curiosity. If you say you want to hear it, then I'll tell you. So the truth is, the sacrifices will end next year. Next year's sacrifice will be the last. That's what the doll says. That's right. Having said that, he stepped away from me and looked at my left shoulder. I purposefully avoided following his gaze. My left shoulder, where nothing should have been, felt heavy. Perhaps the doll's face was there. Then Kanai-kun approached my face again. That's right. And there's something I want you to check for me. Whether this person really is at this school or not. If they are, there's no problem. The school will be freed from its various curses. The strange incidents that happen here won't happen anymore. That person's name is... I heard it. That person's name. If that person becomes this year's sacrifice, then it all ends there. That person is here at this school. That's why it's going to happen soon. The final ritual for the sacrifice. That person is here amongst us. Those of us gathered here right now. I can't say any more than that. Because what Kanai-kun told me was about finding that person. Kanai-kun died right after that. It was a heart attack. He reached out with both hands, like he was attempting to grab something by my left shoulder. And just like that, with his mouth gaping open, he passed away. But he was clenching several black strands of hair in his hands. It wasn't my hair. He didn't touch my hair even once. Perhaps it was that of the doll I couldn't see. I don't know. He might have been holding it right from the start. Nobody suspected me of Kanai-kun's death, because the teachers and everybody knew about the story of the doll. Everyone treated his death as though it really was just a heart attack. And that's the actual end of my story. I pray that none of you see that doll. But if one of you doesn't become the sacrifice, then the curse won't end. In the end, the seventh person never showed up, Which means that this meeting is over, yeah? Well then, I'll be on my way. Excuse me. Having said that, Arai-san got up from his chair as though to leave. Ah! When I tried to stop him, he slipped past me and rushed out the door. What a horrible story he told us. I looked around at those remaining. They all had their faces down. They looked to be frightened and angry. The doll's sacrifice? There's no way I could believe a story like that. It's just not possible. Something so terrifying